You're listening to the Telltale Channel. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. And take a look at my other YouTube channels too. You can find some ad-free, uncensored, complete versions of my videos on my website, owenmorgan.com. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email list to get early access to everything I release. All links are in the description. In this podcast, Pastor Mark Driscoll has some bizarre obsession with gender and gay people. I don't know what's going on with this guy, but he talks about it more than I do. And it's my literal job to sit here and sift through right-wing extremist news. That's saying something. I'm sad to say that Richard Dawkins has completely lost the plot. He used to be considered a strong atheist, and he's been responsible for a lot of atheists leaving religion behind. His comments on a British radio show were absolutely bizarre. I don't know where his head is anymore. Anti-trans propaganda is getting absolutely out of control. Seriously. When is it too painfully stupid and transparent for the far right to accept? Is there a limit to this? My God! You have to listen to this video. We also take voicemails if you want to leave a voicemail. The number is 1-800-701-8573. Also, check out my book, owenmorgan.com/book. I'd appreciate that very much.
Should I attend a gay wedding of family or friend? If you are a Bible-believing, Jesus-loving, faithful Christian, I would say no. I would say you shouldn't go to a gay wedding, you shouldn't go to a strip club, you shouldn't go to a drug den, and you shouldn't go to a progressive woke church flying a rainbow flag. Those are all places that are not best for God's people.
Okay, this is Mark Driscoll. If you've never heard of him, I wouldn't be surprised. He's kind of coming up. He just hit my radar. And he's apparently he's been a televangelist for a while, or the leader of a large megachurch, an evangelical megachurch. And he's a public figure. He's very, very well known, apparently, in these circles. It's just for the record, I don't want to go down this road right now, but in my opinion, Christianity does not condemn homosexuality. Let me rephrase. It doesn't condemn gay marriage. There's nothing about Christianity that condemns it. Yeah, you can find a few verses written in various spots, back in the Mosaic Law, which was fulfilled by Jesus, so completely irrelevant. You can find a verse in, about Sodom and Gomorrah, which was not about being gay, by the way. The complaint was their ill treatment of the poor, not the fact that, and when they showed up to, investigate, see if there's a righteous man, the problem was mistreating foreigners over anything. So, the Old Testament right out the window, irrelevant. New Testament, there are a few verses, but you know what? None of them were written or said by Jesus, or even quoting Jesus. None of them. Jesus didn't say a goddamn word about being gay. So I don't want to hear it. You know what Jesus did do? He did include women in his service. It's a little weird, right? This whole time, we've been told by people like Mark Driscoll and other evangelical extremists, women have no place among teachers or whatever. Well, I guess it depends on the evangelical church. But Jesus didn't stand for that at all. Do these people even know what Jesus stood for? The fact that they're opposed to women being involved in ministry at all, it should be a sign that they have no clue what they're talking about. Have they even read the Bible? I doubt it. Anyway, let's talk about Mark Driscoll and some of the things that he's talked about recently. Dude seems to have this bizarre obsession with trans people and gay people and everything. It's like he thinks about this stuff more than I do. Now, I'm straight, I'm cis, I'm married to a woman, I'm pretty much straight down the line, right? But my job is to cover extremism and hatred against minority groups. And that's what Mark Driscoll does. He is in my wheelhouse. But I got to tell you, man, I hardly think about this stuff outside of this. And all things combined, I think this dude thinks about gay people and trans people more than I do, honestly. Being a part of the community the way that I am. That's weird. Anyway, check this clip out. The last one, by the way, that was early February 2023. The one about gay marriage.
Flying a rainbow flag.
Comparing gay marriage to doing drugs, going to a strip club, or going to a church flying a rainbow flag. Yeah, that was early February 2023. This next one here, this is early March 2023. I just want to give you a baseline idea of who this guy is, okay? Check this out.
Augustine says, one of our biggest problems, we have a bunch of Ahab men who are dressing up like women, feeling as victims, expecting to be compensated so they don't have to go to work.
St. Augustine said that? Is that what he just said? St. Augustine said that? Hold on. Let me just find this out for real. I hard doubt on that one. I don't believe that for a second. Just a cursory glance here. I'm not seeing a word about that. St. Augustine is a famous Christian. And like a philosopher, he helped form out a lot of ideas about Christianity and things like that, if you were curious. Here's like an Encyclopedia Britannica entry about St. Augustine. Born November 13th, 354. He died in 430, August 28th, 430 CE. Hippo Regius, now Annaba, Algeria, feast day August 28th. Bishop of Hippo from 396 to 430. One of the Latin fathers of the church and perhaps the most significant Christian thinker after Paul. Augustine's adaptation of classical thought to Christian teaching created a theological system of great power and lasting influence. His numerous written works, the most important of which are Confessions, 400, and The City of God, circa 413 to 426, shaped the practice of biblical exegesis and helped lay the foundation for much of the medieval and modern Christian thought. In Roman Catholicism, he's formally recognized as a doctor of the church. Wow, okay. Anyway, that's St. Augustine, if you were unfamiliar. And he's telling me, Mark Driscoll, he's telling me that Augustine said what?
Augustine says, one of our biggest problems, we have a bunch of Ahab men who are...
I don't know what Ahab men means.
...are dressing up like women, feeling as victims, expecting to be compensated so they don't have to go to work.
I have no clue what he's going on about right now. Is he just like making things up right off the top of his head right now? Am I the idiot here? I mean, I'm asking honestly in the comments, in the chat, am I the moron? That's possible. Maybe I missed this quote from Augustine. If so, please correct me. Prove me to be the moron in this situation. I want to be proven the moron. I'm just like, one of us in this equation is, as Greg Locke would say.
I'm dumber than a box of rocks in a lot of areas.
Or as Shane Vaughn would say.
I've lived for the Lord my whole life, and I was dumb as a box of rocks and didn't know it.
The point is, one of us is, pulling facts completely out of their ass, and I'm not sure. Like, somebody tell me in the comments, like, what's going on here. Okay, so he's claiming that, basically the claim that he's laying down is that trans people, and gay people, I guess, existed in St. Augustine's day in the 300s and 400s CE, 400 years after Jesus came to earth. And St. Augustine, one of the most influential thinkers in Christianity after Paul, complained about the trans community. That's the claim here.
Have to go to work. He's a Democrat. Now,
is he saying St. Augustine was a Democrat?
Okay.
I mean, this should show you, like, the bizarre lines that this dude's drawn in his head, right? He has found a way to demonize and hate anybody that he doesn't like, even early church fathers, seemingly. So that clip was from 2023, early March 2023. Check this one out. This is from mid-January 2021. Just give you an idea. I want to give you a broad spectrum idea of who this guy is because he released some new stuff that I want to talk about. I just want to make sure, the new stuff's at the end, so stick around if you want to see the newer stuff, like that just happened.
we saw it this week. There was a congressman. He's a Methodist clergy. He was praying, and I put that in quotes. And he
Look, if somebody says they're praying, then they're praying, okay?
And he closed his prayer with amen and a woman.
Okay, I had to go in search of this. Was this real? Or is this just completely fabricated? Because again, I wouldn't put it past this guy to just completely fabricate something. As a matter of fact, I'd be surprised if he wasn't just fabricating stuff out of the ether. So, Missouri congressman defends a woman end to prayer. This is from AP News, and the article was written January 5th, 2021. I had never heard of this before, and in my personal opinion, without knowing if he was a Democrat or a Republican, without knowing anything, I think that's stupid. He was just trying to catch attention, right? But okay, let's read this here. Kansas City, Missouri. I mean, Missouri should tell you what you need to know. He's probably going to be pretty far to the right, even if he is a Democrat. U.S. Representative Emmanuel Cleaver said he was caught off guard by the negative response after he ended his opening prayer on the first day of the new Congress by saying amen and a woman. Really? That caught you off guard? That's just a weird thing to say. Cleaver, a United Methodist minister and former mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, is in his 9th term in Congress. He told the Kansas City Star his "a woman" reference on Sunday was intended to recognize the record number of women serving in the new Congress. Okay, so it was a joke. So he's just telling a joke, right? But I guess in the context of this guy's little world, Mark Driscoll, you can't joke about this stuff, apparently, right? But it spurred a torrent of criticism from conservatives who accused Cleaver of misunderstanding the meaning of amen, a Hebrew word that means so be it. Republican U.S. Representative Guy Reschenthaler of Pennsylvania incorrectly stated on Twitter that amen has Latin origins, but added it's not a gendered word. Unfortunately, facts are irrelevant to progressives. Unbelievable. So, yeah, I guess it was just like fabricated. That seems to be like the theme of the night, just fabricated out of the ether. Cleaver said it was a pun intended as a tribute to his female colleagues and to Rear Admiral Margaret Grun Kibben, the new House chaplain and the first woman to hold the role. There are 144 women serving in the House and Senate. The previous high was 129. Okay, so it was a joke. Sounds to me like it was a joke, right? Probably ended and said, amen, and a woman. You know? I can see that. Sure. Okay, so this guy's going to, laugh about this guy not understanding what amen meant?
Which is asinine. Okay? Just tell you what I'm thinking.
I wonder, I mean, the way that he's framing this, it seems like he believes that the word asinine has its roots in the word ass, but it doesn't. I think they're two completely different words, for the record. Asinine etymology, late 15th century, from Latin asinius, from asinus. No, apparently they do have roots. Okay, my mistake. Knowing is half the battle. Like, I don't want it to be lost, though, before we continue. I don't want it to be lost on us that this guy is, like, swearing from the pulpit, basically, right? Like our old buddy Hank Kunneman when he was proven to be a false prophet.
Whether you think I'm false or not, if that's what you think, then you can take your opinion and you can shove it.
Yeah, I think I would avoid swearing and harsh language like that from the pulpit. That's just me.
And they asked him why. And you know why? He demonstrated a deep and profound father wound.
Father wound? A father? I mean, it seems obvious to me that it was a joke. He was joking. Is this like the opposite of what Freud did? Blame everything on your mother? Like your mom is the root of all of your problems? No, this guy has a father wound. Everything is because of people's fathers. Okay, go on.
Well, if we're going to say man, we need to say woman. Sir?
That's not what he said.
Not to get all binary on you. Sir? Amen is a Hebrew word that means, yes, Lord, I agree with you.
Well, it means so be it.
Has nothing to do with gender. But when you have a father wound, the word man becomes a trigger.
What? What the hell is he saying? When you have a father wound, the word amen becomes a trigger? I'm sorry, man. This sounds like complete nonsense to me, honestly.
and all of a sudden you go into critical theory, feminism, your women's studies course, spelled with a Y.
Spelled with a Y? What? Here's another thing. Okay, this is so interesting because it acts as a snapshot in time. Like I said, this video is from mid-January 2021. That snapshot in time, it was a moment in which the Republican Party was demonizing certain specific things. Critical race theory was like front and center, CRT, or critical theory in general. And they claimed that Democrats are trying to change the word Latino or Latina to Latinx. Now, there's no real movement to do that, and there shouldn't be. And if there were a movement to do so, then it should be led by people who speak the language rather than, some randos that live in the U.S. and have nothing to do with that language or culture or anything. By and large, all of that stuff is fake. It's all fabricated outrage to get people whipped into a blood frenzy. And to my knowledge, at the time, I think they were saying Republicans like Mark Driscoll, obviously, we're hearing him say it here. I think that the claim was that we should be spelling women W-Y-M-Y-N. And that includes everybody. I'm not really sure what the claim was exactly. But, it's just like another example of people getting whipped into a blood frenzy over absolute nonsense. Nobody was trying to spell women with a Y. Nobody is trying to push critical race theory on your children or wokeism or transgenderism or the whatever the hell. I don't even know. Like, no one's pushing that stuff, okay? Jesus Christ on a cracker.
All of a sudden, you go into critical theory, feminism, your women's studies course, spelled with a Y, and you act like a drunk. Okay?
You act like a drunk, okay?
And so amen and a woman, it's like, there are and he's part of the United Methodist, which is apostate.
UMC. It's interesting he says it's apostate. The Methodist Church, officially the UMC, just broke off from, it split in half, basically. I don't know if you guys heard about this. I talked about it forever ago, but how many churches did they lose total? It was basically over their position on gay marriage. Officially, the United Methodist Church Conference, which covers all Methodist churches in the United States, maybe in the world, I don't know. They officially hold the stance that women are not allowed to be preachers, and gay people are not allowed, they don't accept gay marriage, and they don't accept gay pastors, for example, things like that. But they've been ignoring those rules for a long time. The General Conference has. So the decision makers at the top of the UMC have, they appoint pastors and move them from place to place, and whether they're gay or they're a woman or whatever, they just, they haven't cared. And there was a huge split like years ago, 5 years ago now or something, but we just got the data after all this time to kind of get an idea of how big that split was. Yeah, this is a Friendly Atheist article on it. Hemant Mehta wrote this, November 21st, 2023. More congregations are ditching the UMC, United Methodist Church, over an LGBT schism. The UMC is the second largest Protestant denomination in the U.S., more than 12 million members, considered splitting up over the question of whether or not to embrace bigotry. It's the right move. Some relationships need to end in divorce. Yeah, I agree. So just lay some statistics out for you from Hemant Mehta's website here. In 2019, which is around the time that the split was happening, I believe, 53% of UMC delegates voted on a plan that basically rejected LGBT inclusion for everyone formally affiliated with the church. They had until the end of 2023 to make a decision. The next General Conference isn't slated to be held until 2024. That meant pro-inclusion churches were going to have to make a decision, accept the new rules and say goodbye to LGBT leaders in relationships and those who wanted to perform same-sex unions, along with all those younger people who would never voluntarily join such a bigoted denomination, or make a break and try to run a church with no support from a larger body, which is very, very difficult. At the same time, after a number of relatively liberal churches said they wouldn't enforce those rules, a bunch of conservative churches vowed to leave if the UMC didn't enforce their ban. Well, they didn't enforce their ban, and a bunch of people left. A bunch of conservative churches decided to leave. Leaving the UMC comes with a massive financial hit. Churches that want to disaffiliate have to pay 2 years' worth of church dues. Wow. And fund their pension obligations. And that's not even considering the churches that rely on financial help from the UMC. And yet, in Georgia, that's exactly what 261 churches will be doing. So there was a big split. I don't remember what the figures were. Yeah, okay, here you go. Of the roughly 30,000 UMC churches across the country that existed in 2019, 7,286 of them have chosen to walk away since then, likely because of this controversy. Side note, this spreadsheet is incredible to watch change over time. Oh, interesting. Wow. Okay. Anyway, what is that percentage-wise? 7,286 divided by 30,000. So they lost about 25%. 25% of their people. That's a lot. But that's not like a death blow to the UMC. I think they changed it to Global Methodist Church. Yeah, the conservative nutcases who didn't want gay people involved changed it to GMC. So now they're GMC, and the old one is UMC. Anyway, this guy says the UMC is an apostate church, apparently.
There are and he's part of the United Methodist, which is apostate. You could go to some of these churches, and their translation of the Bible intentionally omits any reference to masculine attributes of God or us.
That's false. I actually looked into this pretty closely because I was curious. Is this real? Do they really do that at any of these churches? No. And I'll prove it in a second. Just keep listening here.
Attributes of God or us. So you will not hear that God is Father or that you are a son of God.
That's just false.
They'll use something called the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. The old Revised Standard Version was a great version. The version that I preach out of, the English Standard Version, is built on that foundation.
Okay, NRSV. This is my favorite translation of the Bible. You know why? Because it's so accurate. It's extremely accurate. It is as accurate as you're going to get as far as Bible translations go. So he's claiming that the NRSV version of the Bible omits any gendered language about God or about us, apparently. I don't know what that means, but okay. That's easily provable, right? All I got to do is just think of a verse where God is presented as a man and see if the NRSV version omits gender there, right? The first one I thought of was the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, blah, 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 hallowed be thy name, so on and so forth. I'm citing the King James version here, but I use the NRSVA. It's the NRSV anglicized. That's what it means. So Matthew 6:9-13. Let's just read it. Pray then in this way. Quote, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Curious. It says Our Father. I thought Mark Driscoll, pastor here, just told me that the NRSV omits gendered language about God. What happened? Who's lying?
That I preach out of.
I mean, it seems pretty clear to me that this is just a flat-out, blatant, bald-faced lie, right? Does he really believe this? He claims to have all of this detailed information, and he says he went through these translations, and he used to use the old standard version, and, the one he uses now is built on top of the old one, and the new one is blah, 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 blah. So he claims to be all this, he has all this knowledge about this translation, but he didn't go to the Lord's Prayer, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, to disprove what he's claiming here? I don't see how this could be anything but a lie. I mean, he's just trying to fearmonger about, being trans once again. To my knowledge, for the record, the Bible does portray God as a he, I think. They use male because Hebrew is masculine over feminine. It's in Hebrew, default in mask. Okay, interesting. Well, Hebrew was the Old Testament and partially Aramaic, I think, or maybe it was spoken in Aramaic and translated to Hebrew. Anyway, the New Testament, the Greek scriptures, that's what I was reading from. just a minute ago. But anyway, I have no reason to believe that they removed gendered language from the NRSV anyways. I use the NRSVA in everything. It's the most trustworthy version, in my opinion. All right, let's keep listening to this nutter buttery.
The version that I preach out of, the English Standard Version, is built on that foundation. The New Revised Standard Version started off with a father wound as the translation.
What the hell does he mean, father wound? Are we getting Freudian up in here?
As the translation command. Remove all masculine language.
What?
So it doesn't say that God is Father and you're a son of God.
That's just false. I'm looking at it right here. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Are you kidding? He's just like full of it.
You can go to one of those churches and they can read the Bible to you. You can be there your whole life. And because the father of lies was overseeing the translating, he's lying to you that you have a real father.
Okay, my God, dude. Everything this dude says is either confusing as hell or just seemingly a lie. Like a easily disprovable lie. Dude, shameless. Listen to this one. This is another, it's hard to say that things are lies because you don't know the person's intent, and lie depends on intent largely. But you know what? Intent is commonly established in courts by showing a pattern of behavior, right? You're not in someone's head. You don't know what they want to do or what they meant or whatever. But if somebody has a series of unfortunate accidents over and over and over and over and over again, like, oops, I accidentally said the name of somebody who is a juror and could be intimidated. Oh, my bad. Oops, I accidentally said another juror's name. Oops, sorry. At a certain point, it's pretty obvious. That's how intent is established. If that was a flat-out lie, it seems to me, right? Now listen to this lie that he tells, in my opinion, the lie that he tells here. This one is from mid-August 2023. Listen to this.
And there was one guy, I was a young pastor, was in my 20s, and he would come up and talk to me after the sermon, and he had the craziest ideas about Jesus. And so he was telling me a story, and we were
this dude has crazy ideas about Jesus, so.
Talking. And then as he was telling me a little bit of his life story, his countenance changed, his posture changed, his voice changed, his personality changed. And it got very aggressive and very combative and very arrogant.
Yep, I know some Trump supporters that do that kind of thing. Mark Driscoll is on the far right and falls into that category of nutcases that is really extreme and defensive over his extreme ideas. So yeah, totally. I'm on board. I've seen it. I've seen it from people like him. Go on.
Very arrogant. And I just asked, I said, who are you? And his voice changed. Hair stood up on my arm.
Totally. His voice changed. I believe it.
Said, I'm the one who's been teaching him. I said, what's your name? It said, Jesus. I said, Jesus of Nazareth? Jesus, the Son of God? And he cackled. It was haunting. He said, no, not that Jesus. It was a demon who took the name Jesus and deceived a guy who was confused and troubled.
Okay, well, why didn't he, continue with the confusion then? Why didn't he say, yes, that Jesus, now follow me? It's just completely made up, right? Obviously. Dude is fabricating this story. And it seems thought out to me. It feels like he's really put a lot of time and attention into detail. Just shameless, man. Okay, so he claims that apparently demons can pretend to be Jesus and confuse people, even though the Bible says that demons shudder at the name of God or something like that. Doesn't he believe that Jesus is God? By the way, Jesus isn't even Jesus' name. Jesus' name was Yeshua, probably pronounced Yeshua, like that, something to that effect. My mouth doesn't make the correct movements to enunciate the correct vowels in the right places and stuff, but something like that. The A is kind of dropped off or left hanging, like Yeshua, like that or something. Anyway, why would he say that he's Jesus?
I rebuked him in Jesus' name. I said, the Lord rebuke you. All our authority is delegated. I prayed for the Holy Spirit to come into the conversation. The man came back present, and I told him what had happened. He received Jesus. He became a Christian. We baptized him, and he got delivered.
I thought he was already baptized, delivered, and a Christian, and just had a bunch of wacky ideas that he had already accepted. What are you talking about? This dude is completely full of it. How many okay, this is just not true. This did not happen. This guy is telling us that this event took place, and it didn't. It didn't take place. Can I be comfortable in calling this a lie? This is a lie, right? I'm trying to establish a pattern of behavior here. This seems like a lie to me. The last one seemed like a lie, like not a factual inaccuracy, like, oops, I got this wrong. It seems like he's just straight up lying. Okay, now that brings us to our most recent video from this guy. Give this one a listen. This one released mid-March 2024. Check this out. Before we go into this fully, remember that there's a trans panic happening right now, so that's what he's going to focus on.
So let me go deeper. So I was sitting on my vacation.
Why is he using air quotes when he says sitting on his vacation?
I was sitting
Air quotes.
on my vacation.
Why is he using air quotes? We got to get a hold of this dude's publicist. We got to get answers. Let's figure this out. Was he sitting on his vacation or not?
And I'd never heard this or read this my whole life, that the demonic realm is transgender, non-binary, on a spectrum, and that men who are going to serve the Jezebel spirit have to be castrated and become defiant of their God-assigned gender and sex.
Okay, so I'm trying to pick up what he's putting down here. Correct me if I'm misinterpreting, but I think he's saying that Satan is trying to push people to be trans, and they should be... Is it they should be castrated or they are castrated?
On a spectrum, and that men who are going to serve the Jezebel spirit have to be castrated.
It sounds like he's saying if they're going to serve the Jezebel spirit, then they have to be castrated. Well, there goes bodily autonomy. Fantastic. These people don't seem to understand the concept.
And become defiant of their God-assigned gender and sex.
Oh, God, it's just so hard to know what's going through this dude's head at any given moment. Like, I can't tell if that's what he's saying or not, but honestly, you know, the most important thing that I feel I can derive from this, you know, series of videos that we just watched, the most important thing I can derive from Mark Driscoll and condense into a single question is, did he sit on his vacation or not?
Let me go deeper. So I was sitting on my vacation.
Air quotes, sitting on his vacation.
On my vacation.
Anyway, let me know what you think about this dude. I think he's terrible. Tell me what you think in the comments. Next up, I'm sad to say that Richard Dawkins has completely lost the plot. He used to be considered a strong atheist, and he's been responsible for a lot of atheists leaving religion behind. His comments on a British radio show were absolutely bizarre. I don't know where his head is anymore. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon, and check out my website and email list for early access to uncensored, ad-free, complete videos. All links are in the description. Richard Dawkins stuck his foot in his mouth. I'm sorry to say. Look, Dawkins is in my circles. I know people that know him, that have talked to him, that have had him on their YouTube channels and stuff like that. I've worked with people who've worked with him. I could probably get a hold of him if I wanted, if I tried hard enough. It'd be a challenge, but I think I could do it. So this is personal. Richard Dawkins stuck his foot in his mouth, and I'm not taking this lightly. I feel like I need to criticize the dude for what he said here. So I want to listen to this radio interview that he did here on LBC, Britain's Conversation. I don't know what it means. Something Britain's Conversation. Listening or learning Britain's Conversation. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Interviewer was Rachel Johnson. This came out April 1st, 2024. So just give this a listen. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second.
Professor Dawkins, it's very good to have you join us to discuss whether it matters that Christianity is playing a diminishing role in national life. Welcome to LBC.
Thank you.
And what would be...
So Christianity's playing a diminishing role in people's life? I mean, I guess in Britain, maybe.
And what would be your Easter message? I mean, I've said a few things. What would you tell the nation?
Okay, leading into this, I just want to point out, Richard Dawkins wrote the book, The God Delusion, and he even talked about Jehovah's Witnesses and quoted from one of their books in that. And it was hugely influential and helpful to me to hear somebody break down Jehovah's Witnesses nonsense the way that he did. So Dawkins has done a lot of good for a lot of people in helping them realize the nonsense that they believed. That, high control religions, help them out of high control religions, help me out of it, a high control religion. But at this point, it's just, oh yeah, and he's the inventor of the word meme, really. M-E-M-E. He invented the word meme. He's an evolutionary biologist. Very intelligent and reputable and knowledgeable person. So respect where it's due, but I'm wary about what he has to say in this.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we...
Wait, Ramadan's being promoted instead of Easter? In Britain? Is that real? Ramadan is not forcing, people to stop celebrating Easter or whatever. What the hell are you talking about? It's called multiculturalism. Are you not allowed to, celebrate Easter and Ramadan simultaneously if you want? Can't this guy celebrate Ramadan and this one celebrate Easter? Is that not possible?
I do think that we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer. But there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And
So he means, I guess, that he celebrates a lot of Christian holidays, or a lot of holidays that are traditionally associated with Christianity, right? Okay.
I love hymns and Christmas carols, and
I don't at all.
I sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos. I feel that we are a Christian country in that sense. It's true that statistically the number of people who actually believe in Christianity is going down, and I'm happy with that.
That's true.
But I would not be happy if, for example, we lost all our cathedrals and our beautiful parish churches.
Okay, this blows me away. You think that people wouldn't find other things to be motivated by or inspired by? It's like radical evangelicals saying, if you didn't have Christianity, you wouldn't have Michelangelo or Donatello or, I don't know, who are the other two Ninja Turtles? I don't remember. Anyway, you wouldn't have those people because they were painting beautiful paintings for cathedrals, for, the churches and things like that. You wouldn't have that kind of inspiration. Well, yeah, you would. You just have that kind of inspiration for other things rather than Christianity. That's it. I'm sorry. My inner atheist is coming out. I don't normally talk about this on stream because it's not the line that I want to draw. I don't care that much. I would rather draw the line between us and extremism. But this is ridiculous. The fewer people... Okay. It's virtuous to believe more true things than false, right? Can we agree on that? It's a good thing to believe as many true things as possible and as few false things as possible. That's good. Now, if that's the goal we're aiming for, then in ideal worlds, there would be no kingdom halls, right? There would be no Mormon temples because these people would just snap out of it and realize and say, oh, this is just nonsense. Let's shut the temple down. Let's shut the kingdom hall down. I mean, it's a pipe dream. It's not happening, but just imagine with me for a second. Now, Richard Dawkins is disagreeing with that assessment. Apparently, he's saying, I don't want to live in a world where there are fewer kingdom halls and fewer Mormon temples and so on and so forth. What? This dude got pulled into something that I saw happening in 2014. It was this, in fact, he kind of sparked it inadvertently. God, Gamergate and Elevatorgate and It all just blended together, and it was so much drama, and it was widespread drama. It was like all over the place. Anyway, Richard Dawkins was like tangential or involved to some degree in all of that, and it basically sparked the anti-SJW, what would be considered today the anti-woke crowd, to come out of the woodwork and start screaming about wokeism and wokeists and gay marriage being bad and all this other junk. Like, atheists on YouTube were anti-woke by and large. And Richard Dawkins fell into that rabbit hole. And that's where he is now, seemingly. See, in Britain and other European countries, they have a unique situation that we don't have in the United States, really. Not in the same way. In the U.S., we have people coming over the Mexican border because there's a big opening there, a humanitarian corridor that leads to a refugee center where they can seek asylum status, right? That big hole in the border must be there so they can request asylum status by international law. Anyway, there are people coming over the border, and, as expected, Republicans fearmonger about it like mad. Talk about how Muslims are coming to get us in their terrorist cells and they're building an army, all kinds of other ridiculous nonsense. Muslims are the Mexicans of Britain or of the EU. Muslims are escaping extreme countries, or they're escaping oppressive countries or war-torn countries or underdeveloped countries. Yemen is very war-torn. It's in a bad position right now, Yemen is. And refugees are coming into European countries, France, Germany, hell, the UK, and trying to survive, trying to make a life. And guess what? When they get here, they're Muslim. Richard Dawkins is the British version of a right-winger, effectively, screaming about immigration and how bad it is and all this other nonsense. In reality, immigration is actually phenomenally good for a country. It builds its economy to have more workers in it. Russia has to pay women to have more children if they want a baby boom. We don't have to do that in the U.S. We have immigrants coming in like mad. Or we have immigrants who want in like mad. Like, tons of people want in right now. We can build our economy easily and quickly, like crazy quick. So Richard Dawkins fell for this whole anti-immigrant line, sadly. And as I agree with him that Islam is destructive and damaging to people's lives, and in an ideal world we wouldn't have Islam because people just wake up from it and realize this is nonsense, the people still deserve respect and human dignity, right? And if they want to celebrate Ramadan, let them. How does that affect you at all? Dawkins seems to be claiming that Ramadan is replacing Easter? What? What are you talking about? It's replacing Easter. Makes no sense. Anyway, okay, so he's a cultural Christian, and he would be sad if he saw fewer kingdom halls and fewer Mormon temples and fewer Scientology buildings. Okay. You've lost me already, Richard. By the way, I'm friends with a lot of people that know him in all seriousness. Outside the YouTube sphere, I know every member of the board of directors for American Atheists personally. Like, sat down and hung out with them and chatted. I know the board members of the Secular Student Alliance and the president, and you name an organization, and I probably know some of the higher ups in that organization. Not a huge fan of Dan Barker, but that's a story for another day. The people at the tops of those organizations, the people that I just listed that I sit down and chat with, are likely friends of Richard Dawkins because he's such like a mainstay in the atheist movement. And they've been in the atheist movement for, 30 years, and they're like litigation counsel for whatever, They're out there actually fighting legal battles and stuff like that. So it comes with a degree of risk for me to do this. Like, am I going to piss somebody off that I've been friendly with, that sees me at conferences and says hey and hangs out and drinks with me and stuff like that? I might be isolating myself by doing this, but I feel it needs to be said.
Is going down, and I'm happy with that. But I would not be happy if, for example, we lost all our cathedrals and our
in our kingdom halls and our Mormon temples, huh?
Beautiful parish churches. So I count myself a cultural Christian. I think it wouldn't matter if we
Like, I'm a cultural Jehovah's Witness in that I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, but I want to see all the Kingdom Halls disappear. Ideally, there wouldn't be a single Jehovah's Witness left because they'd all leave the religion. They would leave it all behind and they'd be left with nothing but the governing body members sitting there with nobody to rule over. By the way, I wrote a book called 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a booklet, actually. It's a small book, about 80 pages long, and it's basically a set of 100 questions posed to Jehovah's Witnesses and the governing body that I want answers to, that I have not received answers to. 100 questions. This is 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, front and back cover. This is Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses. This is a much longer book. It's 400 pages, and it's my story mixed in with Jehovah's Witnesses history and some of their more destructive policies and things like that. So anyway, yeah, check it out. owenmorgan.com/book if you want to give it a read. Sorry, I just want to take a little deviation there. Let's keep listening.
Count myself a cultural Christian. I think it wouldn't matter if we substituted any alternative religion. That would be truly dreadful.
But which
Yeah, okay. I don't want to substitute another religion. I would like to see a situation in which we separate from religion entirely. But if somebody wants to celebrate Easter, they should be allowed to. If someone wants to celebrate Ramadan, do it, right? Am I missing something?
Truly dreadful.
But which brings me to my supplementary point, which is that, as we know, church attendance is plummeting, but the erection of mosques across Europe, I think 6,000 are under construction, and they're...
No way, really? There are mosques being constructed? Uh-oh. I don't even believe that. I'm sorry. Hard doubt. There's this ridiculous anti-Muslim fear-mongering campaign tantamount to the anti-immigrant fear-mongering you hear in the United States. Like I said, I don't like Islam either. I'd love to see Islam erased. I would love that. But Muslims should be treated with dignity while they're here, while they're still Muslim. And I really don't care if they're building more mosques. Go nuts. Build as many mosques as you want. Fantastic.
I think 6,000 are under construction, and there are many more, are being planned. So do you think...
Many more. Weasel words. How many more? What are you talking about? Who said this? Where'd she get that information? Is this even real? Because I looked up a source for something that was already said in this by Richard Dawkins, and his source was the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail is absolute ridiculous nonsense. It's not news. It's propaganda. That's it. It's propaganda. And I could be wrong, but didn't the Daily Mail as a company side with Hitler back in World War II? Okay, so it appears that there are roughly 1,700 mosques in England. You trying to tell me that there are 6,000 under construction and many more planned, quote unquote, and there are only 1,700 total, 1,700 that exist right now? Everywhere that I'm looking, like I'm just looking through here, I just typed in mosques in Britain. I typed in how many mosques are under construction, Britain. And I'm getting insane, like Facebook. London closes 500 churches, opens 423 new mosques. Just some Facebook page from a random person. Saudi Gazette, Muslim London, 423 new mosques, 100 Sharia courts. Not a single reputable source among any of these. Apparently now there are about 2,000 mosques, according to British Muslim Magazine, whatever the hell that is. I'm sorry, man. Like, I feel like I have to fact check every word out of these people's mouths, and that's sad. Oh, she said 6,000 in Europe? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that may be accurate. Yeah, okay. Wait, so 6,000 are planned in Europe. That's a little more plausible, but there are still only 7,838 mosques in Europe as of March 15th, 2024. 7,838. You're telling me that they are currently right now doubling the number of mosques that they're building, like right now, and they're planning, quote unquote, many more, whatever that means? I'm sorry, man. Hard doubt.
Do you regard that as a problem? Do you think that matters?
Of course he does.
Yes, I do, really. I mean,
I don't like Islam. Again, I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face. I don't like Islam. In an ideal world, it wouldn't exist. But these people have a right to live their lives and do what they want to do.
I might choose my words carefully. I mean, if I had to...
He has to choose his words carefully because his position is dumb as dog shit, and he knows it is. I'm sorry, man. I don't like insulting people. I don't want to be that guy that bags on people all the time. That's not who I am. So I'll let Greg Locke do it for me.
I'm dumber than a box of rocks in a lot of areas.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate your input on the subject.
Might choose my words carefully. I mean, if I had to choose between Christianity and Islam, I choose Christianity every single time.
I'm not sure that that's justified. The extreme elements of both sides are equally as extreme as each other. They're equally as bad, especially in the United States. Oh my God. Is there as much extremism in Christianity? Do you see it as prevalent as it is in the Muslim world? No, probably not. It's not as prevalent in Christianity. There are more moderate Christians than there are moderate Muslims. Additionally, Islam hasn't shaken off theocracy yet. They're still in theocracy mode. Christianity is on its way back to theocracy mode right now. They're trying to create a theocracy in the United States. I don't think they're going to succeed, but they're trying anyway. But Christianity and Islam are equally as bad. There just aren't as many extremists right now in Christianity as there are in Islam, in my opinion.
In Islam, I choose Christianity every single time. I mean, it seems to me to be a fundamentally decent religion.
Are we talking about the same Christianity? Are you serious?
A way that I think Islam is not.
Okay, so Christianity is a fundamentally decent religion in a way in which Islam is not.
I think you're going to have to explain why you say that.
Yes, please.
Professor Dawkins. Why is Islam fundamentally not decent like Christianity?
Yes, I mean, the way women are treated. I mean, Christianity is not great about that.
No, it's not. As a matter of fact, all right, we'll put it this way. Yes, I guess you could say Islam is worse. I'm thinking about the most extreme elements. We can address whether there are more extremists in this one than this one or whatever. We can debate that. There are more extremists in Islam than there are in Christianity right now, like population-wise, I think. But let's just take the extreme elements, like the fundamentalists. Let's talk about the fundamentalists. Is Christianity worse for women on a fundamentalist Christianity? Or is fundamentalist Islam worse for women? I would say fundamentalist Islam is worse for women, but they're both bad.
It's had its problems with female vicars and female bishops and things. But there's an active hostility to women, which is promoted, I think, by the holy books of Islam.
It's promoted by the holy books of Christianity, too. It's just not followed as closely.
I'm not talking about individual Muslims, who, of course, are quite different.
Oh, thank you for that, that little hedge that you gave us there.
But the doctrines of Islam, the Hadith and the Quran, is fundamentally hostile to women, hostile to gays.
I agree.
And
well, for the record, the Bible is used by fundamentalists to impose hostility on gay people and women in the exact same way. So, it doesn't really matter if the Bible is or isn't hostile toward gay people. It's irrelevant. The fundamentalists think it is, and that's what matters.
I find that I like to live in a culturally Christian country, although I do not believe a single word of the Christian faith.
Just for balance, should we say something about fundamentalist Christians who, we can see abortion rights, reproductive rights being rolled back in Republican states in America. So Christianity is still not without its problems when it comes to women.
It's just bizarre to me that this conversation is even happening with Richard Dawkins. What the hell is going on right now?
And their rights.
Well, you didn't ask me about Christianity in America. That's
no. You're talking about extremist Muslims. Not every Muslim is an extremist. There are like 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. They're not all extremists. And there are roughly as many Christians, give or take. They are not all extremists either. But the extreme elements of each. He's talking about the extreme elements of Islam. I'm talking about the extreme elements of Christianity too. So he's saying, well, let's just talk about the extreme elements of Islam and leave like the extreme elements of Christianity to one side. Like, we're not discussing that right now.
About Christianity in America, that's a different matter entirely.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sure we got some fundamentalist Christians here too, but not as public.
Well, insofar as fundamentalist Christians oppose evolution and think that the world is created.
That's not, that's bad. That's not what I care about as much. I mean, I certainly care about that, but I'm really more concerned with the fact that they're trying to take over the government.
Oppose evolution and think that the world was created 6,000 years ago. I mean, that is pernicious nonsense, of course.
Pernicious? Okay, pernicious. Having a harmful effect, especially in a gradual or subtle way. Sure. I suppose I can agree that's pernicious. Not accepting evolution as the fact that it is. But that's like the headline that you're going with, the lead. The problem with Christianity is their refusal to accept evolution. Does this dude live under a rock? What is going on right now?
Right. Well, so I think I see where you come from. I like the phrase, you're a cultural Christian. I think I'm a bit more than a cultural Christian, although...
Again, I'm a cultural Jehovah's Witness. I mean, I left the culture behind, but that's my heritage. I guess.
It does. My belief waxes and wanes. Would it be a good thing or a bad thing if we became a less Christian country? And just on the...
It's bizarre to me that she even has to ask this question of Richard Dawkins.
You know, the foundation of this nation, with the king being the head of church and state...
which I don't like at all either. They have a state church there. He's the head of the church and the state. Are you kidding me? There shouldn't even be a monarchy, but okay.
The head of church and state. Do you think it provides a solid foundation that we would lose something if, let's say, there was a Muslim majority?
Oh, please don't say what I think you're going to say.
Well, yes. I think the king, when he was Prince of Wales, was actually rather sympathetic towards Islam, and one of the problems I felt. No, I think it would be a terrible thing. And insofar as Christianity can be seen as a bulwark against Islam, I think it's a very good thing. I mean, in Africa, for example, where you have missionaries of both faiths operating, I'm on Team Christian side as far as that's.
What the hell is happening? What happened to this dude? When you're dealing with missionaries in or on the continent of Africa, you're dealing with extremists, largely. I think it's mostly Catholics, right? And some Protestant denominations do it. And they are deeply destructive to the area. Like, they spread nonsense about birth control and about, condoms and all kinds of other really harmful things that get people killed. And you're on Team Christian. You know you can be on Team none of them, right? Why are you picking Team Christian? You can be on Team, I don't like what the Catholics are doing on the African continent, and I don't like what the Muslims are doing on the African continent. What the hell is happening? The saddest part about this is Fox News came out and wrote an article about this. Seriously. Famous atheist says he identifies as a cultural Christian and is horrified by promotion of Islamic holiday, Ramadan. What the hell is happening? Okay, they're not giving us any audio, apparently. Let me just read what Dawkins is saying. God, I hate this player. It's terrible. It's binary, no question about it. You're either male or female, and it's absolutely clear. You can do it on a gamete size. Oh, he's talking about trans stuff. Okay. A famous atheist and evolutionary biologist, Richard Dawkins, explained he identifies as a cultural Christian in an interview after learning Ramadan lights were hung on a street in the UK as opposed to hanging lights to celebrate Easter. Do you hang lights for Easter? Dawkins was referring to Mayor of London Sadiq Khan turning on 30,000 lights for Ramadan, the Muslim holy month, on the cusp of Easter weekend on Oxford Street. I must say, I'm slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead, Dawkins said in an interview with Rachel S. Johnson of LBC Sunday. I feel that we are a Christian country. My God, dude. When Fox News is advocating for you and using it and using the things that you say in their propaganda, you know you've done something wrong. Somewhere along the way, something went wrong. Oh, now look, He said some really terrible stuff about the trans community too, needlessly. And they're quoting him on this also. Oh my God, dude. He called out bullies who criticized Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling for commenting that there are only two sexes. J.K. Rowling is effectively a right-wing scumbag at this point. Doesn't she work with like Ben Shapiro and stuff now? Pretty sure she does. What the hell is happening? What happened to the atheists, the old atheists? What happened?
Sound.
It's interesting because I sort of thought that you would be more of a Hitchinite, God is not great advocate, but it's interesting.
Hitchens wrote a book called God is Not Great, Why Religion, or How Religion Destroys Everything It Touches, or something to that effect. God is Not Great is the antithesis of Allahu Akbar, which means God is great. So I don't know. I thought the way he titled it was a really interesting, he titled it in an interesting way.
Hitchinite, God is not great advocate, but it's interesting to me that you see the value and the force for good of the United Kingdom having a Christian foundation.
Yes, but I must emphasize that I think that the things that Christians believe are actually nonsense. I mean, I think that...
Yes, we caught that. You think evolution is real and all that other stuff. Yep, got it. Okay.
When you say you waver, I wanted to ask you, do you actually believe that Jesus had a virgin for a mother? Do you actually believe he rose from the dead? I suspect
well,
you probably
weirdly,
don't.
since you ask, Richard, if I may, because I was at New College when you were I think are you still a don at New College? Yes.
Well, I'm retired.
You're retired,
yes,
but you don't look anyway. Weirdly, I was just 3 weeks ago at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, where the Christians believe that Christ was crucified, or there was the tomb, and the Gethsemane was just there, and Golgotha.
Why was she there? In Jerusalem? Is that what she said? Or in Israel anyway? Touring like where Jesus died and stuff? That's weird. I never thought about taking a Jesus tour. Yeah, the hill, I believe, that Jesus died on was called Golgotha.
Was the tomb, and the Gethsemane was just there, and Golgotha was there.
Golgotha. And
I have to admit that there is a real force. I mean, it feels like the fulcrum of three world religions. It really does. And Christianity is palpable there. The place pulses with Christianity. I don't know whether it made me believe the Bible anymore, but I certainly felt that Jesus was a historical figure. Yes, I did believe that.
Well,
so he's asking, or she's asking, is he a mythicist? Does he think that Jesus was real? I think Jesus was probably real, and I'm not basing that on a personal assessment or an opinion. That's what the consensus of scholarship has to say on the subject. And I listened to extremely intelligent scholars who know this stuff like the back of their hand and have no investment in this. They're atheists, some of them. Like Bart Ehrman seems to believe that Jesus was a real person. Why does he care if Jesus is real or not? He doesn't. For that reason, I think that Jesus was probably real, and he probably was crucified, and it was actually on a cross, not a stake, the way Jehovah's Witnesses claim.
Jesus was a historical figure. Yes, I did believe that.
Well,
am I wrong to think that?
No. I mean, that's quite different. But do you believe that his mother was a virgin?
Well, I mean, maybe that was a mistranslation of...
It was a mistranslation, actually. Matthew mistranslated the prophecy about the Son of Man from the Old Testament and thought that it said that the Son of Man had to have a virgin for a mother, when it didn't actually say that. It said a marriageable young woman, or just young woman generally. A young woman will give birth to blah, blah, blah. So yeah, she's correct in saying, I mean, she's joking about it, but no, that's actually true.
Maybe that was a mistranslation of... Well, that's biologically impossible, isn't it?
Of course it is, yes.
Well, I mean, I used to make a joke that most second children are virgin births because you can... Anyway, we know...
No, please tell the rest of the joke. What?
To go into that.
Yes.
Second children are virgin births? I cannot think of a way in which that could be formulated into any kind of coherent sentence or joke or anything.
But yes, you know what I'm saying. Were you pleased that Rishi Sunak talked about Christian values in his... He said Christian values are British values in his Easter message. You seem to be on the same page.
Yes, I didn't hear that, but
that's what he said.
Yes, I suppose so. But I don't want to be misunderstood. I mean, I do think it's nonsense. But the Christian.
Well, guess what, Richard? You were misunderstood by people like Fox News. Is there any surprise that this is going to be used in right-wing Christian extremist propaganda? What are you doing, Richard? What are you thinking? What's going through that head? He fundamentally views the world in a completely different way than I do. That's the problem, I think. I want to live in a world with fewer kingdom halls. I want to live in a world with fewer Mormon temples. But you know what? I want those people to be allowed to celebrate whatever holidays they celebrate if they choose. And I want them to feel represented by it. I want them to not feel like they're being drowned out by other, cultural whatevers, the way that Muslims probably feel in Britain or the rest of Europe right now. What the hell is happening right now? This is insane.
I do think it's nonsense, but the Christian belief. Today is Easter, and of course I don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead, and I don't believe you do either. Do you?
Do I believe that Jesus rose from the dead? Well, I mean, you're really putting me on the spot. I would like to believe he did. Yes, I mentioned the resurrection. I mentioned the resurrection.
I mean, who wouldn't like to believe that he rose from the dead and there's something on the other side of this after you die? Everybody would like to think that. By
the way, just quickly, because I've been told we've got to stop. When my son was 2, we took him to church, and the priest said, you can ask me anything. And he said that my 2-year-old son asked the priest, do you know Jesus to be true, or do you believe Jesus to be true?
That's an interesting question.
Do you...
I mean, I don't know if that's a true story, but okay.
True. And do you see what I mean? And he couldn't answer that question himself.
Oh, he would have given an answer like, I know he's true, probably.
Anyway,
yes.
Oh God. Anyway, listen, lastly, just one thing. Does it matter, I'm going to ask you again, if Christianity is a minority religion in this country?
No. The answer is no. It doesn't matter.
I think it matters from a cultural point of view.
That's a very clear answer from you, Richard Dawkins. Thank you so much for joining us from, I look like New College, but Richard Dawkins, Prof. Dawkins, is the renowned evolutionary biologist, author of The God Delusion.
This is sad, man. This is Richard Dawkins. I mean, Dawkins already fell from grace for all intents and purposes. He said some real transphobic stuff, like really deeply harmful stuff. And look, I know that he's viewing this through the lens of like a British person living in Britain. But if you don't have a full and complete understanding of American politics and how propaganda is used against certain communities and things like that, and you have a platform, you have no right to talk about it. He shouldn't be contributing to the conversation unless he has a very firm grip on the situation, on how this is used against people. And now Dawkins is on Fox News, being used in propaganda on Fox News. I hope he's happy with himself. This is just sad, man. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. I'm just so disappointed. Next up, anti-trans propaganda is getting absolutely out of control. Seriously. When is it too painfully stupid and transparent for the far right to accept? Is there a limit to this? My God, you have to listen to this video. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon and check out my website and email list for early access to uncensored, ad-free, complete videos. All links are in the description. I'm sure you guys probably noticed, but there's this bizarre trans panic happening. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Darman. Darman, he's a guy on YouTube. I've never seen one of his videos, but apparently they're very shallow and empty and vapid and terrible, but they have some kind of a moral message to them or something. And they have super clickbaity titles every single time. And it's just, I don't know, it's bad. Well, anyway, this is a Darman ripoff kind of. I think the dude's name is Samir something. Samir Bhavani, B-H-A-V Bhavnani, B-H-A-V Nani, Bhavnani. Samir Bhavnani. He's a YouTuber, got a couple million subbies, for real. Couple million subbies, okay? And he's releasing some absolutely insane anti-trans stuff. Like, you wouldn't even believe it. Just watch this Darman ripoff. Coming up.
Hey, son. What's going on here?
I borrowed some of Mom's fingernail paint.
Okay, cool. So?
Doesn't it look cool, Daddy?
What's the zoom in shot about? Is he all freaked out about his kid having nail polish?
My beautiful baby boy. I love you so much. I'll always be there to take care of you, my son.
See, this acting is just bad. It's bad. But it's not the actors. It's the style. This is what they do. This is kind of the style of Darman, you know? The Darman videos with the moral message or whatever. The moral messages in Darman videos, to my knowledge, are all pretty vanilla. You know, be a good person and care about others, whatever. Again, never seen one before. But these Darman ripoffs, man, some of them are just straight propaganda. Anti-trans, anti-gay propaganda. It's insane.
Son. Oh, good catch, son. Future Hall of Famer right there.
Hey, Albert. Hey, great barbecue you got going on here today, man.
Hey, Jim. Thanks, man. No problem. Always fun to have a get together.
Well, thanks for the invite.
Dude, it's so fake.
I know Alexa really loves it.
Alexa? I didn't know you had a daughter. I thought you had a son. Where is he? Sorry, Jim. Did I say something wrong?
Well, it's not Alex anymore. It's actually Alexa.
You changed his name?
Well, I didn't change it, and it's more than just his name that's changed.
Oh, that little girl is Alex? Isn't he or she too young to make that decision?
It's the day in schools, Albert. I agree.
Oh my God, dude, it's so painfully stupid. They're portraying this as a real situation, of course. I covered this video forever ago on my unfiltered YouTube channel, but I felt it deserved a full beginning to end, you know, discussion on a bigger channel, like on one of my bigger channels. So here we are listening to this absolute insanity. It's the dang school, Albert. It's the dang school. The dang school is convincing kids to turn trans. Get a grip on reality, people, please.
It's the day in schools, Albert. I agreed to let my son take these sexual education classes, and then this happens.
Whoa, really?
Give me a break, man. You know what happens in sex ed classes? I know what happens in sex ed classes. I'll play it for you. Because in West Virginia, we were like threatened with having our house burned down because I reported a teacher for saying this stuff during sex ed. It's a long video, so I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. But basically, the teacher said, here, just listen. This is a little bit of, this is an actual sex ed class that my kid actually attended.
Okay? And the one thing is, I'm hoping that you all are brought up by a good family or person, whoever's raising you, that they're teaching you right from wrong, and that it's not okay to be sexually active. If you look at the Bible...
What does the Bible have to do with anything?
It says, sex isn't for love, it is for what? When is the time you should?
When I'm banging your mom.
After marriage. After marriage. I have got so many kids that were so against me in my first and second period.
Really? So many kids so against you in first and second period, huh? So many kids. Okay. Name the kids. Tell me who it is exactly. Which ones? I don't believe a single kid was against her. You know why? Because my kid was against this, and we reported it to the Board of Education, and they did an investigation, and it lasted one day, and it ended with her exoneration. And then I got people threatening to burn my house down and taking pictures through my windows in the middle of the night. That's the cost of disagreeing with people, with teachers in health class, actors of the state, where your kid is compelled to sit and listen to what this person is saying, and this woman is pushing one religion over another by saying this stuff. This isn't the only message either, by the way. There's a whole bunch of anti-trans and anti-LGBT stuff in here.
You would have a heart attack. It makes me sick how they believe.
Yeah, all those kids in her first and second period, totally.
And I'm thinking the upbringing that you guys are having from your parents. I'm not saying nothing bad about your parents.
Yeah, she is.
It's just different nowadays, and I hate it. They say all you do is you.
I mean, she came out with her name, Miss Ashworth. That's who it was.
Everything you're teaching about sexual transmitted disease stuff, you keep referring back to the Bible. And I said I almost said because I'm right.
Well, you could say that, but that's not a reason.
But you can't force somebody to believe in God.
Well, what did you say?
And that's whether you do or not. That's your opinion. But I just can't get my head into there where people.
And that's what's actually happening in sex ed classes, if you wondered. There's more. She went on to trash the LGBT community and trans people specifically in that video. That is what is actually happening right now, today. That happened just a couple years ago. So yeah, it's these sex education classes that you're agreeing to. Totally, absolutely.
These sexual education classes, and then this happens.
Whoa, really? I got that same email a few days ago from the school, Jim. I thought Samuel was too young. But hey, we had sex ed. What's the big deal? So I agreed to let Xavier go.
Well, it's not the same as it used to be, Albert. Yeah, when we're...
Yeah, it's literally exactly the same as it has always been, with some modifications being updated to reflect accurate, modern scientific understanding of things.
Growing up, they used to separate the boys and the little girls.
Yeah, they still do that.
And talk about very gender-specific traits.
Yeah, they still do that. I mean, that's what happens in sex ed classes, yes.
And now it's about everybody being equal, and you decide your gender in this class.
No, that's not what happens.
The things you like.
Oh my goodness, seriously?
No.
Yeah, Alex just said he liked that singer Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish?
Or whatever her name is. That's one of his favorite performers. And that opened up a can of worms. Yeah, so the teachers started pointing out that he might be a little girl trapped in a boy's body.
Wait, so how's your wife dealing with this?
Well, it's hard, Albert. It's really hard on the family. Yeah, the next day, Alex started wanting us to call him Alexa.
The next day, Alex was trans.
Well, at first we thought he was kidding, but then he started not to want haircuts anymore. I'm an 80s guy, Albert. I'm not used to this type of stuff.
Yeah, man. Things are different now.
Okay, my God, dude. This drives me insane. I can't stand hearing people say this. Hang on, I have a clip for this. Not a clip, but a quote. I have a quote for this. Let me see if I can find it. I'm hoping I have it still. All the way back in the 1300s, people were complaining about women these days acting like whores. They're going out and dressing up all slutty and sleeping with whoever they want. 1300s, Japan, seriously. 1930s, they were saying the same stuff. Same exact stuff. 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Kids these days, man. Kids these days. It's not like it used to be. They're all slutty and they're dressing up like whores and they're going out and sleeping with whoever. Same different year. It's a joke. Things are not any more different now than they have ever been. This is just how society works. Society changes and grows and morphs and evolves. That's how it works. Welcome to reality. First time? They're not even in reality right now.
I'm not used to this type of stuff.
Yeah, man. Things are different now. I'm all for trans rights, but the grooming's too much, especially at a young age.
Seriously, it's not happening.
Seriously. Back in the day, there are haters that went out of their way to persecute the LGBT community, which I'm totally against. Nobody should be hated on for who they are. But also, it's too young for a kid's mind. They're still learning about life and who they are.
I agree.
This is just painfully stupid. Oh my God, dude. You know what this reminds me of? I don't know if you guys remember this. Doug Mastriano got 40% in the governor's race in Pennsylvania 2022. This is from early October 2022. This is like a month before the election. Mastriano comes out and makes this announcement. And this is, part of his standard rally. Like, this is no different than anything else that he said.
On day one, the sexualization of our kids, pole dancing, and all this other crap that's going on will be forbidden in our schools.
Pole dancing in our schools will be forbidden. He doesn't really think there's pole dancing going on in our schools, does he? This is all just propaganda, right? When I see things like this right here, like this guy talking about Alexa and all that, it makes me wonder, do people really buy this?
On day one, all the pornographic books that are in elementary schools will be pulled out.
Right, because, they're trying to push this stuff on children, of course. This is just embarrassingly cringy.
So Jim told me some news about...
Whoa, hold on a second now. Are you portraying a man getting his own food? That doesn't really jive with the traditionalist attitude that I've been getting from this video this whole time. The mom is a feminist, isn't she? She's got to be a feminazi. I can see it already.
So,
and this poor man has to get his own food. The gall of feminazis.
So Jim told me some news about his son, Alex.
You mean Alexa?
Oh, you know?
Yeah.
Don't you think it's a bit young for him to make that change?
What's the big deal?
Okay, so right off the bat, you can tell that they're portraying her as an evil, right? Because she's like slamming her keyboard, just hitting that thing, like making noise, for no reason, just sitting there completely flat-faced. What's the big deal, huh? Why do you care? What's the big deal? Like, God, dude, tone it down just a little bit. I'm begging you.
For him to make that change?
What's the big deal?
Oh, I mean...
You're hearing this, right?
It's not a big deal. But he's saying they groomed him in that sex education class. I'm thinking maybe we shouldn't send Xavier.
Seriously, Albert? I didn't realize you were so transphobic.
What? Come on, Raven.
Great. You know what? You don't want to send your kid to sex ed? Then you have to sit the kid down and have that talk with them. Do you really want to do that? You know what happens? I know what happens because I was pulled out of sex ed class. I was exempted from it. You have to have a special waiver. The family has to tell the school, no sex ed for our kid. We'll give it to him. And you know where I got my sex ed from? I got my sex ed from the youth book, Your Youth, Getting the Best Out of It. The red book. It was primarily used in the 70s and 80s. I think actually I used the Young People Ask book, not the youth book. Jehovah's Witness literature. We did have a youth book sitting around, but we didn't really use it much. It was a YPA book, Young People Ask. But there are some choice quotes from Jehovah's Witnesses in these books. Oh my God, dude. Hold on. I actually wrote a book about this subject. I wrote 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, 80 pages, and Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, about 400 pages. This is the 100 Questions cover. This is the Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses cover. But in the 100 Questions book, this is the smaller one. It's more of a booklet. Hold on. I'm just going to give you a couple of quotes from the book that I wrote, 100 Questions, because I did a ton of research for it. Something unique I did about this book, or did with this book, I guess. 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses. Instead of copywriting the book as I normally would, as I did the other one is copyrighted. This one is attribution non-commercial, Creative Commons. So you can modify, you can copy, you can transfer, and you can whatever, but you cannot sell it. You can add to it and you can give it to other people, but no selling it. You can even get a copy of it and send it to printers and print like 50 of them to hand out to Jehovah's Witnesses, And I don't have to get like any of that. That's all you. That's a unique license that I added to this book. But hang on, let me just find the section here on the LGBT community because it's wild. Some of the research that I did for this is nuts, dude. Okay, here's just like one example. This is question 16. Why did Jehovah's Witnesses claim that touching yourself would turn you gay? Jehovah's Witnesses have had a book for young people for years. Today, it's a Young People Ask book. In the 70s, it was the youth book titled Your Youth Getting the Best Out of It. Here's what the youth book had to say about homosexuality. Quote, in fact, masturbation can lead into homosexuality. In such instances, the person not satisfied with his own lonely sexual activity seeks a partner for mutual sex play. This happens much more in nature than you may realize. Contrary to what many persons think, homosexuals are not born that way, but their homosexual behavior is learned by touching themselves, of course, you see. And often a person gets started when very young by playing with another sexual parts and then engaging in homosexual acts. Why are they putting this in a book for children that's supposed to be teaching sex ed? What the hell is happening right now? Question 17. I didn't actually write this question. This is written by one of my editors. Why isn't the majority of the human population gay? I answered it, though. Touching yourself is well studied. Scientific consensus is it's completely normal and even offers health benefits. 96% of the population does it. So we would expect to see a 96% rate of gay men, if that were true, if there was a correlation, right? It's obvious that they just straight up lied in this book. I don't know how it gets more obvious than that. You're going to have to get the book if you want to read the rest. But the point is, some of the stuff Jehovah's Witnesses said was wild. Oh my God, dude. It was crazy, actually. There's one more little section here I wanted to read. This is from Jehovah's Witnesses Watchtower, August 2023, page 6, okay? Quote, some even tried to bully our young ones into breaking their loyalty to Jehovah. Note, for example, what happened to a young man named Graham. By the way, Jehovah's not God's name. I talk about it at length in the book. You're just going to have to get the book if you want to find out more. Who lives in Australia. He faced a challenging situation when he attended high school. The teacher asked the class how they would react if a friend confided in them about being a homosexual. This is 2023, guys. 2023 when this came out. The teacher said that all in the class who would support a friend in pursuing such a lifestyle must stand on one side of the room, those who would not on the other side. What point would there be to doing this? Like, what? I can't imagine a situation in which this is real. This is fabricated, right? Graham says the entire class stood on the side that supported that lifestyle, except for me and another witness. Jehovah's Witness is being persecuted again, right? What happened next was a real test of Graham's loyalty to Jehovah. Quote, for the rest of the hour-long class, he says, the other students and even the teacher taunted and insulted us. I did my best to defend my faith in a calm and reasonable way, but they didn't listen to a word I said, end quote. What effect did this test of loyalty have on Graham? He says, I did not like being the target of such verbal attacks, but I felt incredibly happy that I was able to defend my beliefs without compromise. Jehovah's Witnesses, Watchtower, August 2023, page 6. Absurd. These people are absurd. The scenarios that they draw aren't even realistic. I don't believe that happened anywhere, ever. Now, is there a possibility that some of these individual pieces might have happened at some point in time, like in one school district? Yeah, maybe, I suppose. And maybe one teacher in one school district in the United States told one class of kids, hey, if you want, you don't have to be a man. Like, you can be a woman. Like, it's possible for you to be who you are. If you're trans or whatever, then you can come out and be who you are if you want. It's possible that's happened once. But this portrayal of some systemic top-down intent to force kids to change their gender or to pick their gender in class or whatever. Or like Jehovah's Witnesses said, like Graham, as if that has literally ever happened. I'm sorry, I don't believe that's ever happened, ever. Separating kids like that? No, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't. You know when I was separated from class? For Valentine's Day, for Christmas celebrations, for birthdays. I wasn't allowed to eat the cupcakes. I wasn't allowed to sing the songs or sit around with the other kids. I had to sit in the corner of the classroom and wait for all the festivities to come to a close. That's when I was separated. This is just a joke, dude. These people are so far out from reality. I can't even see him from where we are. By the way, check out the book, owenmorgan.com/book. I'd appreciate it.
I'm not transphobic. I just want a son to be
A son?
And you don't have a problem with that?
No. If our son is happy being a boy, then let him be a boy. If he decides otherwise, then let him. Whatever makes him happy. What exactly is really the problem, Albert?
That's exactly right, yes. Let him be happy. Whatever he wants to do. Period. You may not understand this yet. I'm speaking to the guy here. This guy may not understand this yet, but he will come to find that kids eventually, sooner than he expects or thinks probably, kids are going to make up their own decisions, make up their own minds about their lives, and form out their own personalities. And you can't stop that. That's just what it is. In fact, some kids have their personalities and their ideas about certain things formed out by the age of 6. You know, I know one kid who discovered that he was gay at 6 years old. Anyway, just let them do what they want to do. It's their life. If you don't like what they're doing with their life, then get the f*** out of it. That's the way I see it.
Really the problem, Albert.
It's just he's too young to make that decision.
But he's not too young to play Mortal Kombat and rip people's heads off. Or steal cars playing Grand Theft Auto.
Babe.
Okay, I don't know. I'm just lost. Like, what link did any of this have to do with anything?
Those are video games.
You know his favorite character in Mortal Kombat is Katana. Maybe that's who he wants to be in real life.
Okay, a lot of supposition. I mean, even the ridiculous, fake, over-the-top feminazi character they've got going on here is giving ridiculous suggestions. This is absurd. Nobody would ever think that they're trans because they like playing, what was the character's name? Kitana in Mortal Kombat. People don't turn trans because they like playing Kitana in Mortal Kombat. There's a lot more to it. I'm sure I don't even need to say that. All the arguments she's giving here are surface level garbage, and they're not representative of any real information, any scientific information, any real arguments that anybody ever gives.
That is Katana. Maybe that's who he wants to be in real life.
I think he picks her because he finds her attractive.
Oh gosh, now you're mansplaining. Wake up, Albert. It's a new age. I really don't think this class is going to be a big deal.
All right, I got to tell you guys, my wife is a feminist. My kid is a feminist. I'm surrounded by feminists. And I am not politically correct to any degree ever. Let me rephrase. When Republicans talk about being politically correct, it's because they want to use the N-word. So I don't use the N-word for what that's worth. But I just, I speak my mind. That's just how it is. If I say something that, like if I call somebody, Indian instead of Native American or something, and that's a problem for them, then I just fix it and I move on with my life, right? Not a big deal. I've never in my life, I'm trying to be sure about this, I don't think I've ever been accused of mansplaining or manspreading, ever. Like, these are not real things that people really do or talk about.
I don't think this class is going to be a big deal. It's going to teach our son about all genders. It's good for him. I know you wanted a boy over a girl. Is that what this is all about?
It's not about that. I wanted a girl as much as I wanted a boy, but...
You know what? It seems like you're getting upset. Should I set up an appointment with our counselor?
No. It's okay, Raven. It's cool. I'm cool. You can take the class.
Okay, thanks. I have this work to focus on.
This is so cringy and terrible. It just makes me want to vomit. Oh my God, it's bad. So now they're going to go to the school and talk to this feminazi teacher, right?
Okay, great class today, kids. Xavier, can I see you for a minute?
Sure, Mrs. Karen.
Xavier, you're such an amazing child. I wanted to talk to you about something that happened today in class.
The kid's eyes completely vacant, and it'd be totally forgivable. Like, he's a kid. He's not an actor, right? Doesn't know how to portray emotion on his face yet because he just hasn't learned that skill yet. But It's like every character in this show is like that, practically, except for the feminazi. Apparently, she knows how to show how she's an absolute evil maniac.
What is it?
Well, I noticed you put male as your gender in class.
I am a boy.
Well, there are a few things that I noticed about you that might make you think otherwise.
Huh?
I mean, you wear earrings, you have beautiful long fingernails. Are you sure you're a male, Xavier?
The kid just... So he found himself some nail polish. He's putting it on. Okay, so who cares? Let him put on nail polish. Why do you care? I mean, nobody, in all seriousness, if this was really happening, if this exact situation were playing out as portrayed, I'd be upset. I would be down there at the school getting on the teacher's case also and explaining to her why this is not okay. Kids should be free to make their own decisions and live their lives and be guided by their parents to hopefully a life that is most beneficial to them. And it will come to a point where they're forming out their own identity, they're forming out their own personality and their own ideas about who they are and how they feel and all that stuff, completely independent of you, whether you like it or not. And if they realize that they're trans or they're gay or they're whatever, that's what it is. It's not like a failing on your part. It's not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. It's just who they are. That's just what it is. Them portraying a teacher as like brainwashing children like this is just like the height of ridiculousness.
Hey, son. What's going on here?
I borrowed some of Mom's fingernail paint. Doesn't it look cool, Daddy?
Not really. I mean, I think the look you'd be going for is pretty, not cool, right? If you wanted cool, then you put black fingernail polish on, or maybe put a tattoo of yourself on, paint a tattoo on or something. That'd be cool.
Why are you painting your nails?
Miss Karen, our teacher, mentioned how good nails I have.
Her name's Karen. Miss Karen.
Painting them instead of cutting them.
Oh.
It looks cool, right, Dad?
And there's a Barbie next to him. For the audio audience, if you're listening, there's a Barbie on the bed next to him.
He's painting his nails, Raven. He said he learned it from some girl in class.
What's the big deal if he has girlfriends?
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me step back. Listen again.
He's painting his nails, Raven. He said he learned it from some girl in class.
What's the big deal if he has girlfriends?
Yeah, I don't see why it matters. Let him paint his nails if he wants. He's figuring out his own identity. Kids do this.
Seriously, Albert?
His teacher, Miss Karen, she instigated it.
Okay, if she did, that's a problem. Seriously. In all seriousness. If that was really what was happening, I would be up in arms. But it's not. This is literally, in my opinion, never happened in the history of ever.
By saying his nails are nice? It's not a big deal, Albert.
Raven, I find it a big deal. And I set up a meeting with the school and teacher. I need to see what's going on.
Fine, Albert. You're worrying too much about this. When is it?
Tomorrow afternoon.
She's infuriated again, apparently. She's just the stereotype of a raging of course. Slamming her keys, like hitting them as hard as she can. God, dude.
I wanted to pull her son out of this sex education class. I think it's too soon for him.
What, Dad?
Albert, what is this? We didn't discuss this.
So you're saying you guys don't agree?
I don't think Samuel should be learning this. I think he's too young for him.
But I like it, Dad.
I understand, son.
Albert, come on. You're making a big deal out of this.
Mr. Unger, this class was formulated by experts. Your son missing this class may leave him behind in knowledge that other kids have.
Yeah, okay. The experts, the scientific experts, are not formulating the idea that kids need to be trans or whatever. This is just fabricated.
It also helps with preventative measures. I mean, you don't want him getting a girl pregnant at 13, do you?
I just feel like you're grooming him into being something that he's not.
Albert, seriously, I can't believe you're talking like this.
Well, I mean, in this show, she is, but this doesn't ever happen, like ever.
Sir, I apologize, but this is coming off as phobic.
I'm sorry, Mrs.
Phobic of what? What is it phobic of? She didn't even put like something at the front of it. She just said phobic. Just fearful. This is coming off as fearful, I guess.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Karen. Albert, I need you to go wait in the car. What? No. You are causing a scene, and you need to go calm down.
She's very obviously the one causing the scene. Again, stereotype, trope of a raging...
I won't tell you again.
I won't tell you again, she says. Oh my God, dude.
And you need to go calm down. I won't tell you again.
He says fine.
Such toxic masculinity.
That is not what toxic masculinity is. Toxic masculinity are traits that are damaging to men, generally. Not to other people or whatever, but to men. Women are socialized to cry. I mean, there's no problem with crying for women, right? But men do not cry. They hold all their emotions in, bottle it all up, and it explodes. Or they eat themselves alive with stress or hate or sadness or pain or blah, 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 whatever. That's toxic masculinity because it's bad for the man. It's toxic for him. The being masculine to the point where he refuses to cry is bad for him. Needs to be able to express his emotions in a healthy way. That is what toxic masculinity is, not what's being portrayed here, where she's yelling at him because he doesn't want his kid to be in this class, and he says, fine, and then stands up and leaves.
Such toxic masculinity.
And by the way, why is the kid sitting next to the teacher? That would not be happening. There's like a weird power imbalance happening here, but okay.
Masculinity.
Seriously.
I see here you both have different last names.
Yeah, I didn't want to change my last name.
Typical feminist. Wants to keep her own last name, huh? Very empowering, she says.
Very empowering.
Thank you.
This is ridiculous. This is my son. I should have a say so on what he's learning.
This is dumb as dog, dude. Like, I don't like insulting people or things, so I have a soundboard that does it for me.
I'm dumber than a box of rocks in a lot of areas. Facebook just makes people think I'm smart.
I've lived for the Lord my whole life, and I was dumb as a box of rocks and didn't know it.
Thank you, Shane and Greg, for your contributions to the conversation. This is just painful.
Just sign your gender here, Xavier.
Sign your gender here.
You can be a girl if you want to.
This is very obviously pressuring a kid into doing something, right? Coercing a kid into doing something, into forming out this specific identity that these two adults want the kid to have. That's wrong. That is wrong. That's not what's happening in society at all.
It's okay. This is what he wants.
I guess. Do what you feel is best, Xavier.
I don't know what I want to be, Mommy.
Well, you love strawberries over chocolate, right, Xavier? That is pretty feminine.
But I like chocolate sometimes.
It's okay, I do too.
He's my son. I'm not tolerating this nonsense.
Oh, now he's become an alpha male and he's gonna go Hulk out and go in there and show his toxic masculinity off.
Put the pen down, son.
Albert, what are you?
Shut your mouth.
Sir, you need to calm down. You're behaving like an animal.
I am an animal, and I'm protecting my son. This is jungle, so you better get back.
Albert, please.
Raven, get your big back in the car.
Did he just say, get your big ass back in the car? That's what he said to her, to his wife.
Please.
Raven, get your big back in the car and take our son with you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Oh, God, it's so cringy and terrible, dude. It's so cringy, like I want to vomit, you know? It's like people have different reactions to cringe. Sometimes I just like my face wants to implode. It's so cringy. And this one, I just want to vomit all over everything. It's so bad. She says, yes, sir. She's so interested in somebody who takes charge I guess she isn't a feminazi after all, huh? Or is a subtle message that feminazis are actually looking for somebody to take charge of them? Is that like, am I picking this up correctly?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Dude, I don't know why I rewound it or whatever, so I could see that again.
Come on, baby.
Typical angry black man.
Okay, that's racist. Like, really. Like, seriously, they've played up every trope, every racist, misogynistic, anti-trans, anti-LGBT, every trope imaginable. They've played it up here. It's insane.
Don't change, huh, Karen?
Wait, there are little dots here, so I guess he's saying... Did he say bitches don't change? Is that...
Don't change, huh, Karen?
Yeah, I can't even see his mouth because the camera was turned away, but I think he said bitches don't change, huh, Karen?
Don't change, huh, Karen?
Foiled again. She really wanted to turn this kid trans. Drat. She'll get him next time.
Hey.
So what are we gonna do now, Dad?
Well, first we're gonna head down to the city clerk.
City clerk? What's that?
Well, the only thing we're changing today is your last name.
Thank you, Dad. I love being a boy.
No problem, son. I know you'll grow up to be an amazing man. I love you.
I love you too.
It's okay to be a man and have old school morals.
Oh, God, that was bad. That's the creator of the YouTube channel, by the way. Millions of subbies, okay? This is not small. I don't know how many views this specific video had, but it was a lot. Let me look. Okay, 150,000 views on this video, and the YouTuber has 1.8 million subbies on his channel. No joke.
There's nothing wrong with accepting the trans community, but there's also nothing wrong with the straight community. We need to all appreciate each other's upbringings and differences. Don't hate, just appreciate. I truly hope...
Was that the message? Don't hate, just appreciate? That's what he was trying to communicate here? This is him.
I truly hope you enjoyed today's video. Remember to check out...
I did not.
...my daughter's new YouTube channel.
That's going to be a no from me. Oh, this poor kid, dude. This poor kid's going to be, like, brainwashed into insane nonsense as she gets older. Says you can follow him on Facebook.
Follow me on Facebook where you see some exclusive content on there. And if you want to see behind the scenes, remember to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Don't forget.
Okay, no thank you. I like your shirt, though. I'm not taking a break. I'm rendering. That's funny. I render videos, and it takes forever sometimes. It takes like an hour or so sometimes because I render a whole bunch together. Anyway, that was bad. That was absolutely terrible. Seriously, like, the trans panic has come to a fever pitch at this point. Tell me what you think in the comments. This is just disgusting. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. And take a look at my YouTube channels. Owen Morgan, where I talk about religious issues. Telltale Fireside Chat, where I talk about politics. Telltale Unfiltered, where I do long-form breakdowns of stuff like this. And Telltale Reads, where I read books by televangelists and others. I release everything in parts, but every part stands independently of the last. So you can jump in anywhere and I'll make sure it makes sense. You can find some ad-free, uncensored, complete versions of all my videos on my website, owenmorgan.com. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email list to get early access to everything. All links are in the description. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.